Hello, this is an early years speech and language therapy tutorial, supporting children with speech, language and communication needs in your early years setting. My name's Jo Colwell. I'm one of the early years speech and language therapists. This series of bite-sized tutorials is intended to give early years practitioners easy to access information in short chunks so you can get to know more about what speech and language therapists do, build your knowledge and understanding of children's communication development, and gain ideas about how you can help children develop these skills in your early years setting. Ideally, you will have at least completed the tutorials called What Do We Mean by Speech and Language Development? And Ages and Stages of Speech and Language Development. In this tutorial, we're going to cover some of the simple things you can do to support children with speech and language needs in your early years setting. This will fall into three main sections: using visual support, adult-child interaction strategies, and using everyday activities to support communication development. And actually, these strategies will be supportive to all children in your setting, whatever their level of ability. Using visuals can be helpful for children with communication needs because they are permanent, in contrast to spoken words, which are transient. Because visuals don't disappear, they can help children understand information and support them in completing tasks. There are different types of visuals, and children may find some easier to understand than others. Key to the success of visual supports is that they are used consistently across all the child's environments, so the message is the same at home and at nursery. The table shows you which types of visual are easiest through to hardest. We will look at each type on the following slides. Real objects can be used to show a child what is about to happen and are sometimes known as objects of reference. They are concrete. The child does not need to interpret them in any way. It's vital to choose objects that are relevant and meaningful to the child you're working with. These may not be the most obvious things to other people. The object or objects chosen should be kept in a place that is accessible to the child so that he or she becomes familiar with the objects and has the opportunity to initiate. This may be a shelf or a bag or basket, for example. The objects should remain in that place until they're used for communication. Here are a few examples of what objects might represent for a child. So a teddy might mean it's nap time. A plate might mean it's lunchtime. A hat might mean it's outside playtime. Sometimes it's more practical to have small objects of reference. If they're light enough, these can be stuck to a large board using Velcro to create a timetable or choice board. Parts of an object could also be used, for example, a piece of towel to represent bath time, or a piece cut from clothing to represent a person. So how do we use objects of reference? We can think of it as 4 steps. Step 1, the child is given the object and they're led to the activity. This is the easiest level, where the child only has to cooperate with their key worker. Step 2, the child is given the object and goes to the activity with prompting. This may be physical prompting, gestural prompting, verbal prompting, or a combination of some or all of these. The aim is to reduce the level of prompting needed until the child is ready to move on to step 3. This is when the child is given the object and goes to the activity without prompting. When the child is able to do this, it shows that they have gained an understanding of the meaning that the object has, but they're not yet at the level of initiating. Or the child goes to the object spontaneously, then goes to the activity with prompting. This shows that the child has some idea that the object has meaning and is able to initiate, but is unable to make the connection to the activity without prompting yet. Step 4, the child takes the object spontaneously and goes to the activity without prompting. This indicates that the child understands the communicative significance of the object and is able to initiate an interaction by taking the object to the activity. The next easiest form of visual support is the use of photos. Photographs are easier for children to understand than line drawings because they're more accurate representation. You can print photos to use on a now and next board or timetable depending on the child's level of attention. Pictures of family members, key workers or friends can be added to photos of everyday activities to create a timetable or reference board. You may have seen the kind of symbols we use with children we work with if, for instance, parents have given you copies or you already use some kind of symbols in your setting. The two we most use are Communicate in Print and Board Maker. Follow these links to find out more about these and how to access a free trial if you're interested in trying them out for yourself. Just remember when using symbols that concrete ideas such as objects are easier for children to understand than abstract ones like time and place concepts. You could also draw your own pictures, of course. You can use visual support for a range of purposes. For example, a now and next board can help children move between activities or tolerate adult direction in their play. A visual timetable can help the child to anticipate and join in with preschool routines and support them when unexpected changes to the routine occur. Do teach the child the concept of unexpected events. Find a word for this that makes sense and use it consistently alongside the other activity symbols. Visual schedules can support children to follow instructions by breaking down the task into steps and showing them what to do rather than just telling them. Initially, this will require adult help, but it could develop into a way the child can follow instructions independently. Choice boards can be used to support understanding and spoken language skills at the child's language level by providing simple, repetitive language models with pictures to show how each choice is different. Remember not to start with too many choices. This can be too confusing for children until they've really understood how choosing works. Now we're going to take a look at some tips for adult-child interaction that support children's communication skills. First, sit face-to-face with the child and join in with their play. This will make it easy for the child to look at you and start talking to you. They'll know that you're interested. It allows you and the child to focus attention on the same activity. And it helps to develop the child's non-verbal communication skills such as eye contact and facial expression. Secondly, follow the child's lead. When playing with children, we take on a range of roles. We may act as helper. This can reduce the child's opportunities to learn through exploration. We may act as teacher, for example by giving commands, telling them how to do things, doing things for the child, or failing to accept the child's idea about his or her play. Children learn best by following their own interests. They'll play for longer and be more motivated to learn new words. When helping children to learn language, it's important to give them as many opportunities to try things for themselves. You may be surprised at what they can do. By playing with a toy the child has chosen, you can see what they're interested in. The play will be more fun for them as they will be doing it their own way. And there is more opportunity for them to develop their problem-solving skills, imagination and self-confidence. So how do we follow the child's lead? OWL is a good way to remember this. O is for observe. Look at what the child does with the toys. Let them use play to learn and explore. Try not to give them commands or instructions, and remember there is no right and wrong way to play. Try to comment on what they're doing or what is happening in the play. For example, feeding Teddy. W is for wait. Don't be in a hurry to do things for the child. By sitting back and waiting, they might surprise you with what they're able to do. L is for listen. Accept their ideas. Respond to the child's ideas and repeat it back to them. For example, the child might say, doll bed, and the adult could respond, yes, the doll's in bed. When playing with children, listen to how many questions you naturally ask. We all do it, but when we ask children questions, they can feel under pressure to say something. They need to understand what you're asking them and think of an answer. They need to think of the correct words and organise a sentence. And they have to do all of this now. And the questions we ask often only require one-word answers, and they're often questions we already know the answers to. So the child might not get the opportunity to use longer sentences or experiment with new words. By asking your child fewer questions, you'll reduce the pressure on the child. You'll avoid one-word answers or just nods. You'll allow them to experiment with new words and longer sentences, and they may surprise you. So try making a comment instead of asking a question. So instead of, "What's that?" you could say, "Look, a bus." Instead of, "What are you doing?" you could say, "You're jumping." Commenting helps the child to concentrate for longer because he or she will know that you're interested and will be encouraged to continue. Describing rather than asking questions helps because you're providing them with words to match what they're interested in. You're helping them to match the right word to the right object, action, or description. And it's rewarding when someone else notices what you're doing and values it. Commenting on and describing play provides the child with a clear language model. If the child uses only single words, you can model two words together. For example, the child says car, you can say blue car, or the car is racing. It's important to comment on what's happening right now, not on events in the past or future, because young children may not understand about the past and future yet. Remember, in order to talk about what the child is doing, you need to be watching them. Otherwise, you might miss opportunities to comment. Children can learn language if they understand the words that are being said around them, and if they have an easier model of language to attempt saying themselves. So it's important to keep things simple and to find the right level of words and sentences to use with the child. Listen to them talking. How many words do they put together in a sentence? Try to use about the same number in your own sentences. So what is the right level? If your child uses 4-word sentences, you use 4 or 5 words. If your child uses 1 word at a time, then you use 1 to 2. So a good way to remember this is to think the child's level plus 1. Now we're going to look at some practical ideas for activities that support communication development. First, have fun with people games. People games are games that only involve people, in other words, not using toys. So they might include things like peekaboo, tickle games, playing chase, or singing songs with actions like row, row your boat. Think about what the child really loves to do and see if you can make it into a game with you. Do they like washing and splashing in the water tray? You could have a go at gently splashing the water too. The idea is to do a little bit of something you know the child loves, then stop and wait for them to ask more. Or again. So if the child loves playing with a ball, you could throw or kick the ball a couple of times. Then hold on to the ball and wait for them to indicate that they want more. However they do this, by reaching, asking or looking, use that as your cue to throw or kick the ball again. As the child gets used to this routine, it will get easier to see when they're asking for more. Second, play with toys that need your help to make them work. This will give the child a reason to communicate with you, for example, bubbles or balloons. Hold on to the bubble pot and blow a few bubbles for the child. Then stop. Wait for them to ask you for some more. They might do this by reaching for more, looking at you, making sounds or using words. Then blow more bubbles and repeat. This encourages the child to learn to communicate for things. You could try this with blowing balloons up and letting them fly around the room, messy play like pouring water or flour, or anything that the child enjoys but needs your help with. Offer choices to children throughout the day, holding up each item as you name them. For For example, do you want apple or banana at snack time? Or water or juice when giving them a drink? You could also use toys. Do you want Teddy or Spider-Man? Start with easy choices. Use one thing you know your child likes and one your child doesn't like. Your child might indicate which one they want by looking at it, reaching for it, or repeating the name. When they do this, give them the one they've asked for. They don't need to use words for this. If your child is not yet talking, you can use their non-verbal behaviour to see what they're asking for. And finally, have fun with songs and nursery rhymes. Children learn words from repetition, so the repetition of language in songs can be very helpful. Sharing songs and nursery rhymes gives you lots of chances to repeat words and sentences for your child to hear. Use the action in songs to help children learn new words. Actions help your child to understand the words and express himself. You could use your visual support. Make a song bag with objects of reference or pictures or symbols for choosing favourite songs. For more information and ideas, here are a couple of videos you might like to take a look at. Hungry Little Minds is a recently launched government campaign to promote simple, fun activities from 0 to 5 years. It aims to give parents ideas on how to develop communication during daily routines and on the go, but early years practitioners may also find it interesting. Serve and Return gives you video examples of playing and interacting with children of different ages. For more information about the Early Years Speech and Language Therapy Service and useful websites, look at the links below. Thanks for listening. We hope you found this tutorial helpful.